Welcome, everybody. My name is Patricia Way, and I am an Associate Director of Admissions here at Yale. Thank you for joining me during your lunchtime to learn more about Yale. I work in the admissions office. I'm Director of Veterans Outreach and also Director of Admissions for Eli Whitney Students Program, which is a program for non-traditional students. When I do these sessions, I always feel like an imposter because I'm not a Yale alum, I'm not a veteran. So we have actually with me today an actual live Yale current student veteran. So Keith, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell people a little bit about who you are and your background?
Absolutely, yes. Good afternoon, I'm Keith. I served in the Marine Corps for 5 years in aviation as a helicopter mechanic. And at the end of that time, I EAS and matriculated to Yale that same year. I came here and I study astrophysics here at Yale, and it's been a fantastic experience and a wonderful opportunity.
And where are you from originally, Keith?
So I'm coming from Camp Pendleton. I joined the Marine Corps to go see things, and they wound up sending me right back to California, kind of where I grew up. It was a good time. So it's nice to be in Connecticut. Finally, actually get to live on the other coast.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you, Keith, for helping me out today. And I want to let you all know that we welcome applications from military students. The president of Yale has made a commitment to increasing the number of undergraduate student veterans on our campus. We will have 42 undergraduate student veterans enrolled at Yale this upcoming academic year. And this photo here is I can't remember, I think that might have been during our Veterans Day ceremony, right? And so we have, in addition, so most of the people in this picture are student veterans. We also have the president of Yale, Senator Blumenthal, the Connecticut state senator, and some other students. But I thought this was kind of a nice picture of our current student veterans. And I know that all of you, you've probably done a whole bunch of lunch and learns. And if you forget everything I say, everything that Keith says, that's completely okay, because you go to a lot of these things and we're bombarding you with tons of information. But one of the things that I do want to emphasize is that Yale is affordable. And that if you forget everything I say, as long as you remember that Yale is affordable, I'm okay with that. We offer generous need-based financial aid, and students may use GI Bill benefits, where we also offer, you can also use your yellow ribbon benefits. There's also tons of funding for abroad programs. There's funding for research opportunities. So don't let the price tag be what stops you from applying. Keith, you've kind of used both our need-based financial aid and the GI Bill benefits. I think roughly, every year is a little bit different. I would say roughly half the students use their GI Bill benefits, half use need-based financial aid. And you can always flip-flop. One semester, you can use need-based financial aid, but in the summer, if you're taking summer classes, you use your GI Bill benefits, etc. So do you have kind of anything to say about or to share about financial aid, benefits, etc.?
Trying to think of what to share. There's definitely lots to say. Yes, I came here starting in the fall with Yale Financial Aid, and then in the spring I opted to switch to the GI Bill. I had a long conversation with the financial aid office, because there's a lot of information to kind of take in if you want to work out the exact numbers. But the Yellow Ribbon program really will cover all of the tuition. That was something I was very, very confused about for a while, but it really does cover everything. It's fantastic.
And even if you are planning on using your GI Bill benefits for the whole time that you're at Yale, I would also encourage you to apply for need-based financial aid so that you can compare. And for most veterans, we do not take your parents' financial information when we come up with a financial aid package. So keep that in mind. That's sort of a good thing. I mentioned funding for abroad programs. Yale has lots of funding, so any student who wants to go abroad may do so at least once during their time at Yale, and they should be able to afford it. There is, for example, Abraham Yormark, who is a current Eli Whitney student. He received the Yale Light Fellowship, which paid for him to spend the entire year in Taiwan. Last year, it paid for everything, tuition, room and board, books, travel, biking around the whole island of Taiwan, which he did. And then this summer, he was fully funded to go to India to get, what was he getting? He was able to get fully funded to get his yoga instructor training certificate from India. We also have lots of veterans and other students who have who get funding for unpaid internships or funding for research. So keep in mind that Yale is affordable. And for those of you who are not familiar with New Haven, we're located roughly between Boston and New York City along the I-95 corridor, on right on the new Long Island Sound. It is a small city with roughly about 130,000 people. It's very manageable. You don't need a car. You can have a car if you want. You don't need one. You can pretty much get anywhere. There's a free shuttle service that takes you everywhere, including to the West Haven VA hospital. There are shops, there are theaters, there are restaurants. It's definitely urban. So if you're looking to go to a school that's in the Rolling Green Hills of Vermont, that's not us. What I like is that you have kind of the small, you have the college town feel, but still be in an urban setting. What do you like about New Haven, Keith? Or what have you done that's particularly fun? Or yeah.
How do I pick one thing? Yeah, East Rock is fantastic. I've loved hiking East Rock. I just recently found out about West Rock, and now I've got another place I need to go hike.
Yeah.
That's like really close. It's just kind of on the other side of town here. It's not too far at all.
And if you are visiting New Haven, you kind of, and you're looking at Yale and you probably saying, Keith, I don't see any hiking trails, but it is. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing. It's urban. It has Long Island Sound. It has hiking trails. It's kind of got everything sort of that you might want in a small city. It is not a large metropolis like LA or New York City. It's very manageable. And it's a great place for foodies. There are tons of good restaurants. I think we have the best pizza anywhere, but it's very manageable. And so let's talk a little bit about academics, because that's a big part of why people choose to come to Yale. And we have roughly about 6,500 undergraduates. We have a student to faculty ratio of only 6:1. 3/4 of our classes have 20 students or fewer in them. 1/4 of the classes have fewer than 10 students. But those are just kind of numbers, right? That doesn't really, I don't think, give you a really good sense of what our education is about. So here at Yale, you get both the benefits of a more intimate liberal arts education, and that's sort of Yale College, that's our undergraduate program, but you also are able to use the resources or take advantage of the resources of our 14 graduate and professional schools. So in terms of our liberal arts curriculum, we feel students don't have to pick their major until the end of their sophomore years or beginning of their junior years. And we really want students to be able to explore. Roughly half the classes you take will be in distributional requirements, where you'll take a wide variety of classes, humanities classes, science classes, foreign language classes, etc. About 1/3 of the classes you take will be in your major, because we don't want you to haphazardly just take a wide variety of classes without developing an area of expertise. So that's your major. And then within each major, you will have to complete a senior project of some sort. That could be a senior research paper. It could be for global affairs. It might be taking a senior capstone seminar. If you're a theater major, it might be directing a play, so that you do end up sort of wrestling with problems and trying to solve them, or delving deeply into important issues. And then about another third of the classes you take, you can use to double major if that's what you want, or for you to take a wide range of classes that have nothing to do with your distributional requirements or your major. And really, the goal of this sort of division of these classes is to make sure that our students not only develop an area of expertise, but they also can think analytically, critically, creatively across many disciplines. Our goal is not necessarily to educate somebody to become a very good technician, but to educate students who can be leaders no matter in what field they end up choosing. And then we also have 14 graduate and professional schools. So some of our students can do research with law school professors or med school professors. We have some classes that are taught at the undergraduate level, but by law school professors. So for example, Akil Amar is this noted constitutional lawyer who teaches at the Yale Law School. And every year he teaches an undergraduate law class on constitutional law. And he invites the students to lunch every week after his lecture. The medical school is within walking distance of the central campus. Oftentimes, the medical schools are at a sort of very far away at other universities, maybe in the same city, but pretty far away. But for ours, it's within walking distance. So it's not unusual for our students to do research with med school professors or volunteer at the New Haven Hospital. So that's, I think, is kind of the nice thing about Yale, is this combination of a liberal arts education within a large research university. So the academic resources that are available to you are kind of mind-boggling. Keith, can you maybe tell students sort of what your academic experience has been, what classes you took last year, and sort of, you know, any interactions you've had with professors, or even, I know I'm throwing a bunch of questions at you, or how your experience might have been different from the other college classes that you took, that you've taken previously.
Yeah, that is a lot of questions. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, absolutely. My first year, I took things a little bit more slow. So I've mostly just got the prereqs for astrophysics under my belt, physics and math, and I've been very driven and focused there. This summer, I've taken a Yale summer session course, and I've had the opportunity to engage with the philosophy department in that class, and that's been amazing. Really looking forward to in the fall. I'm signed up for a linguistics class. I cannot wait, especially after this philosophy class, branching out of math a little bit. Cannot wait for that class. Very excited. As far as the engaging with the faculty, it's been fantastic. The resources really are unparalleled. There's office hours, peer tutor hours, all of those like resources for getting your head around the topic are incredible and invaluable.
And Keith, you are teaching or being a coach, right, for our math summer program. So it's called ONexus, and it is a free summer online program for incoming students who need a little bit more preparation in math. And you also took that class in the summer, right?
I did.
And so was that math class helpful to you? I mean, I can't remember whether sort of what your math prep was like before you got to Yale. I mean, you know, I'm assuming that you wanted STEM. You were probably pretty good at math since you want to major in astrophysics. But what was ONexus like for you?
So my transcripts technically allowed me to take Calculus 1 and Calculus 2 before I got to Yale with another college. And I took those classes and I succeeded and did great, but there was definitely a foundation that was missing in that pre-calc. And that's really what ONexus focuses on, is a lot of that pre-calculus foundation that moving forward, that becomes more and more critical. And it was an incredible opportunity to really focus on those topics. They have 3 different tracks that like focus kind of on different sections, and I wound up on one focused on trigonometry, because that is such a struggle for me, and it was great. It was fantastic to learn
And
that.
Yale has lots of resources, right? So that's ONexus is a summer academic resource. But we also have the Poorview Center for Teaching and Learning, which provides sort of all sorts of tutoring, all sorts of resources, academic resources, and it's all free. And in terms of the undergraduate community, I mean, the vast majority of students at Yale are not student veterans, right? So when you come to Yale, you are going to interact with primarily traditional age students, 18 to 22. But they can be some of the most wonderful resources, in part because they have been professional students for the last, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 years of their life. They're incredibly smart, and they are a wonderful resource in terms of how to take advantage of your college experience. And they come from all sorts of different backgrounds. We also have some non-traditional students. We have veterans. We have older, more mature students who are not veterans, who might have spent time raising their families, who might have, dropped out of high school, dropped out of college to work at a startup, and now are coming back. And you have people coming from all over the world and all over the country. So it's a wonderfully diverse undergraduate community. And it is not just students, right? If you look at the upper right-hand corner, upper right photo, that's students having lunch in the dining halls, and in the back you will see the older guy in the blue shirt. He is Professor Sandy Chang, and he is a Yale Med School professor. He also teaches at the undergraduate level. He is in charge of many of our kind of research programs for undergraduate students, and he often has lunch in the dining halls, even though he's a Yale Med School professor. He loves being in the residential college dining halls and interacting with students. And at the bottom right-hand corner are 2 students with one of our residential college deans. And the wonderful thing I think about Yale undergrads is they want to be at Yale, and they want to learn, and they're eager to connect with other students. Keith, can you talk a little bit about kind of your kind of circle of friends, or the students you've sort of connected with, current students here, and what that has been like, and how it might be different from your previous experiences?
Absolutely. I feel as though I've largely connected with students through the music groups. I'm involved in the concert band and the marching band, and those students, they come from a wide range of places on campus. There are several grad students in there, and there's many undergrads with just all different majors, all different walks of life, all different parts of the country that we all, we're all connected. We all grab meals together and whatnot, and we have those conversations. It's fantastic.
All right, Keith, can you tell people about bassoon and free lessons? And I mean, I was kind of floored when you told me that. I mean, even though I know that Yale has wonderful resources, but would you mind sharing that?
Absolutely. Yes. So in high school, I played the bassoon. I don't own a bassoon. A bassoon's like $10,000. I can't afford that. Right. And so I spent 5 years in the Marine Corps not playing it whatsoever. I came here and I spoke to the director of the concert band and just sat down and had a conversation with him. And he gave me a bassoon for 2 weeks and told me, come back and audition and we'll see where you're at. And I bombed that audition. It was so bad, but he was more than happy to welcome me into the band anyway, kind of under the agreement that I would improve, that it's much better or much easier to improve when you're with a group like that. The band also has its own resources. So they were paying a grad student here in Yale School of Music to personally tutor me one-on-one. His whole profession is the bassoon, and I got so many hours working with him.
And you had never had bassoon lessons, right? You told me.
Never. I was struggling to figure it out on my own back in high school, and then I got here and had him. It was great.
that's amazing. I mean, I know Yale has great financial aid and all of that stuff. I didn't realize they actually would pay for somebody to teach you how to play the bassoon. So good for you. And there are three pathways through which you can apply to Yale. There's a first-year program where you come in as a first-year student. The vast majority of Yale students, came directly from high school to college, and they will be first-year students. We also have a transfer program, and most of the transfer students pretty much have had 1 or 2 years worth of college credits before they come to Yale. We also have the Eli Whitney Students Program, which is a program designed specifically for people who left high school more than 5 years ago. Keith is an Eli Whitney student. Many of our student veterans are in the Eli Whitney Students Program. But student veterans can apply through any of these three pathways. You can only apply to one at a time. We also have a first-year student who is a student veteran, and we have a transfer student who's a student veteran. So any of these programs are possible. And I'm not going to go into, all three programs, what the differences are. That's kind of maybe for another webinar. We also will be hosting information sessions about the Eli Whitney Students Program at a later date. But know that there are three programs, and I do think that the Eli Whitney Students Program is pretty unique because it is designed specifically for students who have life experiences that are very different than just being a student. And it's not like some of these other programs where they're online or they're weekend classes or that you get a different degree. I mean, your academic experience will be exactly the same. But the Eli Whitney Students Program does give some flexibility to adult students. And if you have questions about that, I will be happy to answer that. And so I want to make sure that I leave room. Oh, yes?
We do have a question in the chat. Is there a limit to the number of times that you can apply?
Yes, so you can apply to Yale College. So that's the undergraduate program up to 3 times. Okay. So I do want, actually now would be actually a good time for Q&A. You can take a picture or scan of the QR code that will take you to the Yale admissions veterans page. My email is also on there, and if you have any questions, you can reach me that way. I'm actually going to stop share now. I wonder if it makes sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense to stop share because it's a webinar and I only see the two of you. So I'll leave that, but put your questions in the chat because I want to leave the last part of this for chatting. Let's see. Let me go to the top here. Okay. Okay, I'm currently 60% done with a bachelor's from another school. As for my career field in the Air Force, okay, I have to finish them. Okay, so for students who will have received a bachelor's degree, then they are not eligible to apply to any Yale undergraduate program. So you would, if you're interested in Yale, you would have to explore graduate and professional schools at Yale. But students who already have a bachelor's degree can no longer apply. But if you have completed 2-3 years of college and you don't yet have your bachelor's degree, you can apply to the Eli Whitney Students Program. And then somebody asked about transfer credits. What if I have more than 30 college credits? Am I disqualified from transferring? So if you have more than the equivalent of 2 years worth of transferable credits, you cannot apply to the transfer program, but you can apply to our Eli Whitney Students Program if you've been out of high school for at least 5 years, but you still will have to do at least 2 years worth of credits at Yale in order to get your bachelor's degree. I'm hoping that makes sense. Another question, activity, are there opportunities to our perspective? Okay, so for graduate program, yes, if you Google Yale University admissions, it should list the various graduate and professional schools and list the admissions contact, and then you can contact them. Absolutely. Okay. Pardon me. Okay. All right. So, Jonathan, so congratulations on your upcoming graduation from CUNY. I do not know, I think you should actually talk to probably the service to school law school advisors about possibly asking for deployment. I mean, not deployment, asking for postponement of your matriculation. I know at the undergraduate level, if you are admitted, you can apply to postpone for a year. I do not know what the law school or business school or medical school options are. So that's, I think you need to kind of ask them. But yes, New Haven is known for pizza, and I know, Jonathan, you're from New York, and everybody in New York City thinks they have the best pizza, but I have to say that New Haven has the best pizza in the world, and so you have to try it out. There are kind of 3 triumvirates of pizza places in New Haven. It's Sally's, Pepe's, and Modern. And then we have also a lot of newcomers that are also pretty good. Keith, do you have any favorites?
I had actually just tried Sally's for the first time about a month ago. They were amazingly good. Yep. And then there's.
Have you tried Bar?
I was gonna say Bar, and then Brick Oven. Brick Oven's pretty good, and Bar has very unique pizzas. They make it on like a massive cookie sheet, and they'll what was that one? They've got like
yes, so it's the mashed potato bacon pizza. It sounds disgusting, but it is delicious. So Absam asks, does Yale take AP and online college credits? So if you are transferring to Yale or coming in to Yale as an Eli Whitney student, we do not give transferable credits for AP courses. For online courses, generally, if they are online synchronous courses, meaning live Zoom classes, those will generally transfer if they are courses similar to what Yale offers. But if they are asynchronous recorded lecture type classes, those are not transferable.
And
yes.
I want to note, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's worth noting that asynchronous online classes, those are considered for admissions as far as academic standing, correct?
Right, yes. So we will, very good clarification, Keith. So we will take them, online classes, even if they're asynchronous, into consideration when we make admissions decisions, when we review your application. So even if their credits are not transferable, we will still consider them, but you might not get transferable credit. And actually, Keith, can you maybe say something about your background in the online courses you took and how that and what that meant for you?
Absolutely. I had done just a hair of college before I enlisted, and that was online, that was in person, but the record there, it wasn't the cleanest, it wasn't the greatest. When I was in the Marine Corps, I did online only asynchronous classes with UMGC, University of Maryland Global Campus, and none of those credits transferred. They took a credit and a half from before I had enlisted. The UMGC did not transfer, but it gave me that opportunity to show a good academic record, to show actual progress and capability.
Yes, and I want to emphasize that for classes that you've taken, they may be online, but especially if you might have had a weaker earlier college record or high school record, it is helpful for us to have recent academic credentials. And so in Keith's case, it was very helpful to see that he's taken, these classes while he was in the military and doing well. And, that was very helpful in how we were able to review his application. And Jim, I know there are more questions. I know that it's 1:30. Is it okay for me to sort of keep answering the questions in the chat?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Patricia.
All right. So for those of you who have to leave, and I understand, feel free to email me if you have any questions. I actually will be on vacation for the next 2 weeks, so I might not be able to get back to you immediately, but I will be happy to chat with you, but definitely also review the information on the Yale admissions website for veterans. So Yale summer session, yes, Yale summer session courses do count, and they can be transferable. Will it increase your chances of admission? We will consider that as taking college classes elsewhere. I think the issue is that if you are not a Yale, is that Yale summer session courses cost a lot of money. Financial aid isn't offered to students taking Yale summer session classes. So I don't know that you want to use your funds to take Yale summer session classes for college application purposes. If you take them at a local college, I mean, that's fine if it's cheaper. So it's certainly up to you, but understand that financial aid is not offered for summer session classes. So Jim says, have you seen many veterans apply as first year or transfers? Okay. Is there a major difference in the life? Okay. So the question is about the 3 pathways. So yes, we have students who have applied. I think we are seeing an increasing number of students apply as first years and transfers. Traditionally, they have been applying to the Eli Whitney Students Program. I mean, I still ultimately think that for most veterans, the Eli Whitney Students Program is a better fit because it is a program designed for adult students. You also are kind of automatically provided with a cohort of other non-traditional students. There are, some students, I mean, I think Keith could have come in as either a first year student or as an Eli Whitney student. And I think Keith is one of the younger students in the Eli Whitney Students Program. So first year students usually will live in the residential colleges. They have to take classes full time. They have no choice but to take 4 or 5 classes per term. That is true for transfer students as well, although students who are 21 and older may live off campus, even if they're first years or transfer students. And then with the Eli Whitney Students Program, you kind of have this cohort of other students who are older. The average age is 30. Keith is in the kind of one end of the spectrum. We also have some people who are in their 50s, but most are kind of late 20s, early 30s, especially the vets. And it's just really nice to have a cohort of people who might be parents, might be married, might be, had other experiences beyond just being kind of young, professional students. Keith, what's your kind of thought on this, since you kind of straddle kind of various groups?
Yeah, I think this is a case like the devil's in the details. The differences in the program and what the program allows academically, I think, is really kind of what makes the difference. I know there are some people that really want to kind of be pushed into that 4 and 5 credit every semester. They want to have that path, have that charted out for them. But I find for many of us Eli Whitneys, the freedom kind of afforded by the program is very, very useful, very helpful. The fact that I had the opportunity to take things a little bit slower that first year was incredible.
So for the first 2 semesters, like your fall semester, how many classes did you take?
My fall semester, I took 2.5 credits, 3 classes.
Okay. So, and just to let you know, 2.5 credits means at Yale, most semester classes is 1 credit. So he took, maybe 2 classes in a lab, it sounds like. And then second semester you took?
Second semester, I just bumped it up by 1 credit. I took 3.5 credits total.
And this fall, you're going to take?
This fall, I'm looking at about 5 credits.
Okay. So it doesn't matter. One semester you can take 3 classes. Another semester you can take 5. Another semester you could take 2 in the Eli Whitney Students Program. So it is much more flexible. And I think, and I don't know what your thinking was, but I think with Keith, you were kind of active duty. On active duty, you were taking classes part-time, online classes, and I think you probably got the advice and probably made sense for you to kind of take it a little bit easy because you haven't been taking a full-time course load in a very long time. And so kind of to have that is kind of a nice flexibility that other people don't have. You know, adult students, sometimes they or their spouse might, you know, add another member to their family, and they might take, you know, a semester off, and it's pretty easy to do that. There are also some people who have kind of outside professional gigs, so they might spend, you know, a little bit more time working professionally, and then taking some classes part-time. So it really varies, and I know it's complicated, and it really is a case-by-case decision. So I would suggest that you look through all the 3 different programs on our website, and if you have any questions about which is the best pathway, just email me. We can set up a time to chat about it, and I can give you sort of better advice because it really is sort of one-on-one. I think Keith would probably have been happy. Well, I don't know. I think the Eli Whitney Students Program actually is a pretty good fit for you. Keith also did not want to live with undergraduates. He has a dog. He's, you know, he's not living in a dorm. So okay, so there's another question from Lamaria Williams about transfer credit. So it's hard to say kind of what credits will transfer over. What happens is that if you are admitted, then we will give you a preliminary credit transfer report that will tell you what credits transferred over and how many more credits you will have to do. Some online classes may transfer, some may not. Some classes you take may be in person, but they're not courses similar to what Yale offers. You know, if you took a communications class, Yale will not transfer that because we don't offer transfer credits for that. So that is something that we will tell you once you are admitted. But for the Eli Whitney students, there's no ceiling in terms of transferable credits to be eligible to apply. You can have a lot of credits, but as long as you don't yet have a bachelor's degree, you're eligible to apply to the Eli Whitney Students Program. Sally, Pepe's, and Modern. I would actually say, of course, those were the 3 I mentioned, but actually my favorite is Bar, which is, I love their mashed potato bacon pizza. So you have to try that, Jonathan. I do not, Brittany asked about law school admissions. I work for undergraduate admissions, so I do not have information for you for the law school, but there is information online that you can access. So if I apply as a freshman, is Yale going to review my college credits and consider for application? So if you have less than 1 year's worth of transferable credits, you can apply as a first-year student. But if you have more than that, then you would have to apply either as a transfer student or as an Eli Whitney student. We do not allow students to voluntarily relinquish credit, but no matter which pathway you apply through, we will request, you are obligated to submit your final high school transcript as well as the transcripts from all the colleges you have attended. So, okay, I think those are, any last questions? Okay, maybe not, but again, half an hour is simply not enough time for us, for Keith and I, to share all the information about Yale, all the 3 pathways. So I really want to encourage you to look at our website and also to contact me, and I will be happy to chat with you. If I cannot answer your questions, I can direct you to people who do. But thank you, Jim, for inviting Yale to your Lunch and Learn. Thank you, Keith, for helping me out. It is always very helpful for prospective students to hear from current Yale students. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best in your college search process. Take care.